A year ago, everything around Aubrey Plaza seemed to fall apart. The kind of loss that doesn't just make headlines, it changes a person completely. Fans watched from a distance, unsure if she would ever be the same again. And now, out of nowhere, she's stepping into a completely different chapter. A pregnancy no one saw coming. A relationship that was never publicly confirmed. And a timeline that has people quietly asking questions. Because while the world is celebrating this unexpected news, there's a deeper story underneath, one that's filled with grief, mystery, and a connection that may have been unfolding long before anyone realized it. The news dropped quietly, but it didn't take long to explode everywhere. Aubrey Plaza is pregnant. Not just that, she's expecting her first child with Christopher Abbott, and according to reports, the baby is due this fall. For many fans, this wasn't just surprising, it was completely unexpected. Because up until now, there had been no official confirmation that the two were even together. No red carpet debut, no public statements, nothing that hinted at a relationship this serious. And yet, here they are, stepping into parenthood. It's the kind of announcement that instantly grabs attention, not just because of the news itself, but because of everything surrounding it. The silence, the secrecy, the timing, it all feels almost too sudden. And that's exactly why people started looking a little closer. But to understand why this moment feels so unexpected, you have to go back to what happened just a year earlier. In January 2025, Jeff Baena, filmmaker, writer, and Aubrey's longtime partner, passed away in what was described as a deeply tragic situation. The news sent shockwaves through fans and the industry alike. For many, it felt sudden and impossible to process. What made it even more complicated was the timing. Reports later revealed that the two had quietly separated just months before, after years together and a marriage that many believed was still strong. That detail added a layer of mystery, because from the outside, no one really saw it coming. In the days that followed, a statement from their families described the loss as unimaginable, asking for privacy while they tried to cope with something no one is ever truly prepared for. And just like that, Aubrey's world shifted overnight. The headlines told one version of the story, but what she was going through behind the scenes was something far more personal and far more difficult to explain. Behind the headlines and quiet public appearances, Aubrey Plaza was dealing with something far more personal and far more difficult than most people realized. In the months that followed the tragedy, she didn't disappear completely, but she also didn't fully open up. Instead, she moved carefully, choosing her words, revealing just enough to show she was still standing. During a conversation on Amy Poehler's podcast, she gave one of her most honest glimpses into that period. She described herself as functioning, a word that felt simple on the surface, but carried a lot more weight underneath. Because for her, just getting through each day was its own challenge. She admitted it was a daily struggle. Not something that fades quickly, not something you just move on from. More like something that stays with you, quietly shaping how you see everything around you. At one point, she even compared her grief to a vast, overwhelming force, something you can step back from at times, but never fully escape. And yet, despite all of that, she kept moving forward. Showing up. Working. Living. But while she was navigating that emotional weight in silence, something else was slowly unfolding in the background. While most people were still trying to process everything that had happened, another part of Aubrey Plaza's life was quietly taking shape, completely out of the public eye. Because long before this pregnancy made headlines, she had already built a connection with Christopher Abbott. Not through flashy appearances or public moments, but through years of working side by side. They shared the screen in Black Bear, and later reunited on stage, where their performances required a level of trust and emotional intensity that doesn't just happen overnight. At the time, it all seemed purely professional. Two actors doing what they do best. But now, looking back, some fans are starting to wonder if there was more beneath the surface. There's no official timeline. No clear moment where things began. And that's exactly what's fueling the curiosity. Because this wasn't a relationship that slowly unfolded in front of the world, it appeared fully formed, almost overnight. Of course, nothing has been confirmed beyond the present. But the sudden shift, from co-stars to expecting a child, has people asking questions that still don't have clear answers. And as those questions grow louder, fans have started revisiting old moments, searching for signs they might have missed. As soon as the news broke, fans did what they always do: they went back. Old interviews, behind-the-scenes clips, stage performances. Suddenly, everything involving Aubrey Plaza and Christopher Abbott was being looked at in a completely different light. Moments that once felt purely professional started to feel a little more personal. The way they interacted on stage, the comfort in their conversations, even the subtle energy between them. It all began to stand out now that people knew where things had ended up. In one interview, Abbott talked about how they liked to keep things fresh during performances, surprising each other in real time. At the time, it sounded like two dedicated actors pushing their craft. But now, fans are wondering if that connection ran deeper than anyone realized. There's no confirmed turning point. No single moment that explains everything. Just a series of small details that, when looked at together, start to form a bigger picture. Or at least, that's what people online are suggesting. Of course, it's all speculation. But the more clips people revisit, the more they feel like the signs may have been there all along, just hidden in plain sight. And then came the moment that made it all real. And then, just when the internet was still piecing everything together, Aubrey Plaza stepped out and made it real. Spotted walking through New York City, she wasn't making a big announcement or posing for cameras. It was a simple, everyday moment. But this time, there was something different. For the first time, her baby bump was clearly visible. Dressed casually in joggers, a sweatshirt, and sneakers, she looked calm, almost grounded. No dramatic reveal, no statement, just quietly moving through the city like nothing had changed. And somehow, that made the moment even more powerful. Fans immediately reacted. Some were surprised, others supportive, and many were still trying to process how quickly everything seemed to unfold. Because seeing it made the news feel real in a way headlines never could. It wasn't just an announcement anymore. It was a new reality. And in that moment, it became clear that Aubrey wasn't just moving on, she was stepping into something entirely new. After everything she has been through, this moment feels like a turning point for Aubrey Plaza, not a clean break from the past, but a slow, complicated step into something new. The loss of Jeff Baena still lingers in the background of her story, shaping how people view every update that follows. It's not something that disappears or gets replaced. It stays there, as part of what she has carried into this next phase of life. And yet, in her own words over time, she has reflected on the idea of continuing forward even when things feel heavy. She's spoken about being functioning, about moving through life one day at a time, and about finding small ways to stay present even when everything doesn't feel resolved. Now, with this new chapter beginning, that perspective takes on a different meaning. It's not about forgetting the past, it's about learning how to exist alongside it while still allowing something new to grow. Her relationship with Christopher Abbott now sits at the center of that shift. Not loudly, not publicly defined in detail, but clearly present in a way that signals change. And for many watching from the outside, this moment raises a quiet question. How do you rebuild a future when part of your past is still so deeply tied to you?